afraid to hit my phone too hard.
I know.
Okay.
It's all gonna.
All right.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey guys.
I just feel like I'm like. Oh.
So we are back. It's been a few weeks
Yes.
since we started this challenge. You can probably see if we duck out of the way.
Yes.
This is some of our work that we have been working on for our value in our limited palette challenge. We were calling it just value challenge, but it also is a limited palette.
Right, because we did black and white and
some
one kind of
Yes.
sneaky color.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you chose to do, we've kind of talked about it, but you've chosen to do kind of collage embroidery.
Yes,
stitching?
I've done like collage embroidery minis because I'm
Minis.
obsessed right now. And my kind of addition to my palette is like a gold.
Yep.
Yeah, either metallic or the actual color gold.
Yep. And I chose to do black, white, various shades of black and white, gray, blue, and purple. And then I did decide to add in also some of this warm tan. I'm going to grab my phone and we're going to get some close-ups of these while we're talking.
Yes.
And we wanted to, I guess, to talk about each one.
I'll hold while you talk.
Okay, I guess, yeah, we'll talk about each one, our experience doing it, because as you know, the reason why we do this is because we want to learn something from the process.
Yes.
So like I said, hopefully you can see the art, not
Let me go
just
look.
me.
I'm like, let me look and see.
I know,
This is a
we
really
could-
professional
we
video.
could look.
We see
the
enough
art.
of you. We see your hands,
Okay, great.
and we can see the art. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So I chose basically just all rug hooking for my piece here. I think I said when I started this piece that I took some of these overall shapes, the imagery shapes in here from some of the painting that I was doing. Now, if you know me and know my art, I'm a very colorful artist. I use a lot of color when I am making my work. So I kept saying that this is going to be a real challenge for me to use a limited color, but I am somebody who's somewhat obsessed with value and space and what value can do within an artwork. So I was excited for that part of the challenge. But as you can see, I couldn't help myself, and I definitely leaned on color in some of these areas.
I have to say, for me personally, I just love that pop. Of
Yes,
color.
yes,
Yeah.
I know, and
the
that's something I have at
little-
home. I'm
Yeah.
almost like if I had this available, you probably would have seen a lot more of it, but I'm actually glad that like it's just
You were limited a little bit.
Limited
Yeah.
a little bit, because it really did force me to play with more neutral colors. So some of the things that I learned through doing this, well, maybe I should talk about like my process first.
Yes,
my
yes.
process
Tell us
first.
how you
I
came
started
to.
over here with really like I wouldn't say stark white, but a big contrast between my light shapes and my dark areas. You could kind of call this background, this more like positive space, you could say, because they are kind of defined shapes compared to the more amorphous areas. So I started over here with that large contrast, and then as I moved over, I knew I wanted to get lighter over here and in here, kind of to play with this sort of what you call like push and pull of space, being like here, because the contrast is so intense, it brings your this area forward, like towards the viewer, because of that sort of like harsh contrast. These look like they're really close to you, whereas like this kind of starts to fade further in space. So I was kind of thinking about it as in like not necessarily two halves, but two sides of the composition. This I'm honestly not really sure. This kind of like is somewhere in between these two areas, being like this. It's kind of like the whole thing is sort of like tipped away from the viewer. And I think like another reason why I want to push this out closer to us and move this back is also because of the shape. The shape itself of the whole piece is kind of like moving off into space because of these sort of arches that are leaning away from you in a way. So that's kind of, when I got kind of through this, I sort of knew that that's what I wanted to do, but also playing with it in terms of like, this is a really big shape here. You can kind of, even though this is all different textures, it does kind of make up one big A type shape or archway type shape. Kind of playing with something that's like big, but further back in space. Seeing if I can kind of like control that or handle it in a way. And I think I mostly did because of devices like this.
Yep.
It's soft. Using like an atmospheric type perspective, I know that things that are further away from me are going to look softer. And that's really how I tried to treat this here. So that's kind of what I wanted to, again, like, because I was limited in color, I wanted to play, I knew that shape and space were going to be my sort of elements to push in a way and make things happen within this piece. So I do think it, you know, I sort of deem success if the space functions or the piece functions, it's doing something. I'm happy about that. I could fiddle with this more if I wanted to, but I think I'm ready to sort of move on from it in a way. I think that, like, I learned a bit about it. Right. And like I said, it still is doing something. There's a movement.
And I do, like, I didn't really even think about this before, how that recedes, because like you said, it's like, but then this is so clear. It's almost like this is like a bigger...
They're the same materials.
Yeah, yes, and it's just so...
It's what's around it. Is that.
And this is so defined, too, so that comes forward even though it's darker. To me, it does at least.
Right, it's in the shape of it as well, where this is tipping away, this is tipping the other way.
Yeah.
It's not like my favorite thing. I actually, like, this still sort of like puzzles me, this choice to kind of make this striped thing in the middle, but I don't hate it. It's subtle enough that I'm not like, you know, like, to me the story is about the two sides in a way. It's just something that I did, and I'm
almost,
like, okay,
yeah, and now that you're saying that, this almost feels like something diverging, and like this is another option for your eye to go,
well,
like, you want to look at these, but it's almost like this forces you to look here,
and
even this helps as well.
And these are really different texturally from the two sides. So having, even though this is subtle, it's not subtle compared to what's around it, but because it's, all one treatment, and because it's like just different, it's sort of like, it's the word I'm looking for. It's like, it's kind of like a very neutral compared to how everything else is treated, because it's only one texture and in color. Like, it really is different.
Yes.
But it's interesting, but it's not like competing in a way.
No,
even though it's so different than what's there. So again, it's kind of like a challenge. Like, can I make this work? Can I make this work?
I really feel like you did, because it doesn't fade away. You are drawn to it, but it's not the star of the show.
Right, and it to me recedes back further too.
Yes.
Because of the color. So that's, I guess, what my goal was, again, to just kind of like flip back and forth with how your eye is moving, entering here, moving around, coming out here, you know, just the way that we see space. And it's very subtle. The more you do this kind of work, the more you see those subtleties. And like I said, the more you understand sort of like the function of the composition, the function of the piece, and why it's interesting to us.
Right.
So if it's interesting,
I still very much feel like I'm working on that.
A composition is a lifelong process, but anyway, so I learned a lot and had fun and ready to move on to
go on to the next challenge.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I might do more. You never know.
Yeah,
because our next challenge will allow us to do many things.
Yes, it will.
Yeah. So let's look at yours again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm taking over.
I know we've looked at these already once, so I really only have one other addition, but I feel like Haley has put so much thought into hers, and mine are just sort of really intuitive.
You know what,
honest.
though, if I can just like take a moment to address that, I did not put a lot of thought into mine. And I know it sounds like I probably thought hard about it, but I just did. I just filled in, and then I had a couple times where I took things out and rehooked them.
Well, and we've talked about that before, how when you really are working in the moment and working in your flow, your brain is working in a way that you don't understand, and it's almost after the fact you realize what's happening and why something is working.
Right, or why you like
And-
something.
Yes, and it's funny because I did not set out to make these almost like landscapes, but I very much think that they read as
Yeah.
landscapes to me.
Yeah, especially the one that your hand.
This one.
Well,
This
both,
one?
both of them.
Both of them. Yeah,
I
this
think
is
that-
almost like a cityscape.
Yeah.
This is very mountainous with this kind of almost it just reminds me of like if there were a storm and you just have, I don't know, this one for me was really about texture. I wanted to capture texture. It wasn't until I kind of stood back and looked at it. That,
Yeah, and they're small. So, and I know there's a camera behind me that my head is now blocking, but we were looking, like taking quite a few steps away from your smalls.
yes.
And your minis can sometimes tell you so
Yes.
much about the overall composition, even though we want to get up close to Liz's work because it's so beautifully stitched.
Right. I do want to, like, it is funny when I look at them from far away, I see them completely different.
Mhm.
Like this one, I did not see the city in it until we hung it up on the wall the first time or looked at it through the camera the
Right.
first time. So, but I really do see that now.
Mhm.
And again, this was based on directionality.
Yep.
You know, I have these arrows up here. I have these arrows here.
Which
I wanted your eye to move around, so I kind of used these lines
Mhm.
here. I love knots just for texture, but again, in both pieces, I feel like they help to direct your eye, and this stops you from going off into nowhere. And then this one is not quite resolved yet. Feels a little more simplistic to me. But I think it's going to be.
Personally, I love the open space you have in that. But
maybe I will leave it. I was telling Haley I wanted to add just like a curved stitch with this ivory thread, and I am not quite finished doing what I need to do. So maybe when I'm done with the shapes I have, I that may go away.
yeah,
But,
perhaps.
yeah, it just feels unfinished to me.
Yeah.
So that one will be done. I could probably finish that in like 20 minutes if I sat down and did it. But maybe we'll do it today.
Yeah.
So that's that. And
Fabulous.
I have to say I really did enjoy the limited value structure and palette. I think working with value for me now, moving into color with working with value is going to be, that I will understand it a little more because I've done this.
Yeah.
I know that it's something I need to think about more in my work because I get too caught up in my color, but that's part of it too. Value is color.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Every
so I think
color
I
has
was
a
calling
value.
everything color and I wasn't realizing I was also creating a value structure.
Right.
So-
Let's get them both
But-
together.
Yeah, I really feel like I can almost see these in like a little shadow box triptych and hanging next to your, and I
Definitely.
feel like it could easily all work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because now I'm looking at them together through my camera here, and it's funny. I'm seeing like similarities.
It is weird because we didn't compose these together.
No,
at
we
all.
did not.
Yeah,
no. and they're both.
Here I have this shape here.
Yes.
that is a really important shape in
Uh-huh.
your piece,
and
and almost this like arcing
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like
And this texture that I
curving,
created
leaning.
here with a matte fabric and
Yep.
a thread that has a shine to it reminds me here.
Yeah.
And these are very linear.
Mhm.
They're triangular, but they're also very
Right.
structured. And you have that in your piece too.
Right.
So-
Well, and yeah, but I'm actually surprised again looking through the lens how shiny my piece looks. And then it is sort of relating to your palette more than I thought it would, and like some of the shimmer that you get from your texture.
Isn't that
Just
funny?
like, oh wow,
It
yeah.
is
There's
weird.
definitely some similarities
Yes.
between our pieces.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
we're-
because I used a pearl cotton,
Yeah.
which has a sheen to it, and then this little bit of metallic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just only metallic right here, but because this, I think, has that color in it,
Yeah.
it almost all reads as metallic.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
your
and that was
knots
based on
are-
that little-
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So,
I mean that's another thing too, like thinking about, I'm gonna put this down and we can like adjust
Yeah.
this camera.
hello.
Thinking about like I always say it when I talk to people about rug hooking, because we use so much wool and so much like fluff, the sari silk next to it. Like, it's all about subtlety, right?
Yes.
Where you're working in limiting yourself in some way. So how shiny this looks next to that can really make a big impact. If I did a rug all in that, you
would lose
the shine.
Yeah, you
because
wouldn't have the
everything would be
juxtaposition.
shiny.
Yeah.
It's all about contrasting and contrasting the different elements. That's what I'm saying. Like this,
and even this feels rougher than this.
Yeah, exactly. So texture is, I think, like really, became so important. Shape became so important. Value, of course, because I, wasn't leaning on color. So just making little shifts in any of those ideas.
Yeah, it was
made a huge
interesting
difference.
How important shape became.
Yeah.
When you don't have the color that you're,
right.
you do, it is kind of a crutch.
Right. Well, in working in, we both said like black and white, like we both put a lot of black and white contrast in our work. We didn't land on just like all neutrals, all grays. Like part of I think what we want to do, because we're trying to create like a value structure, we're trying to have everything like black and white,
right,
and then some neutrals in between. I guess what I'm trying to say is you get less of that. It's just the work becomes about contrast. You get less of that
for me,
color
it wasn't
bleeding into other
make
colors.
a monochromatic work.
Right.
That I've done. I spent that was my year of no color. You know, and I learned from that, but I think I learned so much more doing this because sometimes I have an aversion to harsh. I like tension between colors, but I'm not a big fan of like black and red.
Yeah.
Like it's very harsh to me. And even black and white can be
It's literally the most contrast you can have.
So, you know, sometimes I shy away from that.
Yeah.
And I even shied away from it here because I have so many shades of gray, but I also feel like the further I went, the more I embraced
it. I think you really did challenge. I mean, even this one.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have some, dark leading to dark, but I mean, like, you have so much contrast in that. And this one, too, even though you have dark on light, like, there's still so much contrast there. So I think, like, that's contrast. Again, contrast, value, they're all, very, very important to composing. Again, making work that's interesting and does something.
And what's neat is you could sit down and do this with just a pen and paper.
Yeah.
If you wanted to just, work on this structure or a pencil, and just draw yourself a little square or a circle or something and
it's so true.
And lay something out and just get that feeling for what it is. You could use cross hatching to kind of blend if you wanted to. You didn't have to draw an object. You could just draw shapes and section off portions of your
we just
square.
showed that. You don't have to be able to render something like to compose. I mean, these are, what are they? They're not, you know what I mean? They're something. They're obviously something to me, but they're like nothing. You know what I mean? They're just
everybody who
doodles.
looks at it is going to, in their mind, think of something different when they think of it. They're going to see cone or mushroom or or arch.
They are very mushroom.
They'll see something, but it's you bring to it what you want, which is what I love about working so it's just abstractly.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully people will take that as a challenge to just start doodling.
Yes.
And when you're doodling, don't be afraid to color in some areas and leave other areas white.
Play around with it and see and just find that balance that you like, because what you like might be different than what we like. You might really like something I love the way these are my descriptives, but I get a lot of feeling from these of strength. So I think sometimes there's that. I'm not a big symmetry person, but I want symmetry within my asymmetry, sort of. I want balance.
Yeah. But that's
the push
also,
and the pull. Yeah.
Again, that's about these are, I think, like, just going back to it again, because we pushed our black and our whites or whatever, our lights and our darks. Your work becomes more dynamic and it tells more of a story. It becomes more interesting to people. So just try to remember that. More contrast, it's gonna pop, it's gonna be interesting. Less contrast also can be very lovely, but it'll be quiet.
Yes.
People will feel something a lot different from it. So.
Yeah, it's all about what you want people to feel when they look at your work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So stay tuned for our next
challenge is coming up.
Yeah, very, very soon.
Yeah. So. All right, we'll see you later,
guys. Cool. All right, stop this.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna send